All right, everyone. So there's a lot of talk about skill-based matchmaking in Black Ops 7. So we're reading here an article from Game Rant. Treyarch responds to claims there is still SBMM in Call of Duty Black Ops 7. Call of Duty Black Ops developer Treyarch Studios has responded to a recent report that claimed the latest entry in the series could still be prioritizing player skill over connection in its matchmaking system, despite the studio switching to an open matchmaking model during its beta test earlier this year. With Call of Duty Black Ops 7 players convinced the shooter has a stronger skill based matchmaking system than Treyarch states. A trusted YouTuber ran tests to verify these claims. After posting the results online, the studio has responded by explaining why things may feel different now than the game is fully released. If you're a Call of Duty player, you'll likely have heard the phrase skill based matchmaking thrown around, or as most fans abbreviate it to SBMM. Okay, so we're going to move now to the response to this. All right. So that's the beginning part, just setting the stage. Activision remained firm on its stance, keeping skill based matchmaking in the series right up until this year when it shocked the community and confirmed it would be moving back to the traditional open matchmaking system for Call of Duty Black Ops 7. Now, it is important to note that skill is still considered in open matchmaking, but Treyarch insists that it's minimal. Despite this, fans aren't convinced, as many believe the game feels drastically different from how it did in the open beta earlier this year. These conspiracy theories led YouTuber exclusive Ace to run tests, the full results of which are shown in their latest video, to find out what was going on. Ace used two accounts, their main and a bot account, for testing. The YouTuber replicated conditions and settings such as game mode and time of day, with the only difference during the test being the account. The results were slightly concerning. Although the matchmaking time was nearly identical, there was a clear difference in ping, with Ace's main account averaging 42 ms and his bot account averaging 20 ms. This suggests that skill, not connection, is being given greater weight than Treyarch claims, but they insist this is not the case. Following the publication of Ace's video, Treyarch reached out to YouTuber and stated that it is looking into the matches that Ace was testing on their account. The studio reiterates that nothing has changed between the open beta and the full release of Call of Duty Black Ops 7. However, it noted that player demographics and playlist selections are very different, which is likely why players are experiencing such a difference in the skill level in their lobbies compared to the beta. So, look, this is something I think that really comes down to trust of the developer, right? It comes down to the trust in Activision, the trust in Microsoft, and the trust in Treyarch. And because they've lost all this trust, the bottom line is people aren't going to buy what they're selling. And we said this before the game released. You had so much as it pertained to goodwill coming out of the beta because you announced you were making massive changes. I mean, I couldn't believe when I went on YouTube after the beta ended and I saw people who have been very critical of Call of Duty saying, I'm going to give it a shot just because of that. That was a reason they were considering giving it a shot. And then what happened? Few days before release, they said we're also going to have one portion that is SBMM, right? That is the skill-based matchmaking. It's another playlist, and I don't think it's actually the end of the world that they have that in there. But I do think it's the end of the world when you decide to announce it just a few days before the release because people thought, probably rightfully, that it wasn't going to be in any way, shape, or form in the full game. And then, it just looks like you're trying to sneak it in without anybody knowing. And now you have this. And, you know, I'm just really at a point when it comes to the Call of Duty series where I had a lot of fun and I still am playing Black Ops 7. I will continue to play it. I will be playing it in each season because I'm having fun playing it. But I'm hard pressed to not be disappointed in small things with this game. And this is one of those things where, you know, connection should be in every way, shape, or form the number one weighted metric. Look, I understand the minimal skill aspect, especially within a game, right? So if you find a game and you're putting together the teams, let's say, if there's however many people, right, and you're splitting up the teams, skill can be used within that to make fair teams. Got no problem with that. That's fine, right? If you're able to do that. What it can't be is skill being the number one thing, because what happens is you end up playing in lobbies like this, exclusive Ace, and go check out his video. But like he pointed out, where his better account, think about it, the account that he has where he's better has worse connection than his bot account by what his bot account is 20, he has 42, and I'm pretty sure, I'm not an expert on, connection and all of that, but I'm pretty sure the main account is better, right? Or the main account is getting worse connection. That basically means that if you're better at the game, if you're playing better, that you're gonna get worse connection than somebody who is not as good. In what world does that make sense? And it shouldn't be either. It shouldn't be your KD shouldn't determine how good your experience is. It shouldn't determine how good or bad your connection is. That makes no sense. That's stupid. And it's stuff like this that is driving people away from the series because it's one of those things that it just doesn't it's almost like they don't understand that this is something. They have to be online, right? They have to be seeing this. I don't think they quite understand the excitement when people saw that they were going to be getting rid of skill-based matchmaking. The the amount of hatred that is out there for skill-based matchmaking is quite shocking. I mean, there are people that are thinking about this game. If there is skill-based matchmaking, I don't want to even play it. I'm not even going to play it. And yet now we can't even, this is what we're getting. It just doesn't make, in my opinion, a whole lot of sense, right? And I'm not saying that any of this is even true, right? In terms of like like they're hiding something. Nobody's really claiming that, right? Exclusive Ace were just going through and doing his his little study on this thing, right? The game rant thing notes this too, where he says, "Hey, look, this isn't like a huge scientific study. I'm just giving my two accounts. Let's see how this plays out." And his findings are, even if they are smaller in scale, quite interesting, right? And they're quite important. And so Call of Duty, this Black Ops 7, you can make it as good as you can by continuing to add content. And, this is going to be a mediocre Call of Duty, most likely, right? It's going to be a flop in terms of sales and kind of perception, but I think it will end up being, in the end of the day, a fairly mediocre Call of Duty. They're going to have to make changes to this series, and they're going to have to make them in really, really quick time. Go back to the original, right? Go back to what made this series so great. Make it a game that when you boot it up, I mean, like I said, I've said this in other videos, but I'm going to repeat it again because it just, to me, is such a big deal. If you watch those retrospectives, right, and there's a bunch of YouTubers that do them on World at War, Call of Duty 4, Black Ops 1, World Modern Warfare 2, and you even just the campaigns, the World at War is the one that strikes me the most, where you're literally learning about the conflict as you're playing through the story. Think about the effort that went into that. That had nothing to do with necessarily the gameplay or any of that. Would we ever get that from a modern Call of Duty game where you load up the campaign and there's just so much above and beyond effort that goes into it? I want to see that with these. That's what I want to see in the next Call of Duties going forward. Get back to the basics, get back to the fundamentals, and deliver us a Call of Duty game that we can say not just, hey, I'm having fun with it, but that this thing is one of the best games on the market. That's what we want. Thank you all for watching.